welcome to Race for the White House, our daily show where we get you the latest from the US elections. A couple of days after the fiery debate between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, we're going to tell you about whether we see another clash between the two presidential candidates or not. Also on the show, we will decode if Kamala Harris had a secret hand to help her in her debate against Trump. With all of this and much more, let's get started. 2 days after the first presidential showdown between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, the debate might turn out to be the last that we witness before the November 5th elections. I say this because Donald Trump has now ruled out another presidential debate against his rival Kamala Harris. According to former President Trump, Kamala Harris only wants a rematch because he clearly won the debate held in Philadelphia. Trump added that Harris should instead focus on her job as vice president.
But she immediately called for a second debate, which means that she was like a prize fighter that lost a fight. We had two debates, though. I had a debate with crooked Joe Biden, right? And I had another debate with her. So because we've done two debates and because they were successful, there will be no third debate.
Shortly after, at a campaign rally in North Carolina, Vice President Kamala Harris responded by saying that they owe voters another debate because what is at stake could not be more important.
2 nights ago, Donald Trump and I had our first debate. And I believe we owe it to the voters to have another debate. Because this election and what is at stake could not be more important. On Tuesday night, I talked about issues that I know matter to families across America, like bringing down the cost of living, investing in America's small businesses, protecting reproductive freedom, and keeping our nation safe and secure.
These latest developments regarding a rematch come after both presidential candidates claimed victory after Tuesday's 90-minute debate on ABC News. Harris rattled Trump in this debate with a string of personal attacks that put him on the defensive. These included comments about the size of his rallies and his conduct during the 6 January 2021 riots at the US Capitol. However, Trump and his supporters have since accused the two ABC journalists that moderated the debate of being unfair and biased in favor of Harris. Keeping our focus on the first presidential debate, which took social media by storm, generating a series of responses from netizens like Taylor Swift and Elon Musk, we're also going to be tracking a conspiracy theory that has been spread mostly by Trump supporters. Essentially, they're saying that Harris's earrings that she wore during the debate were actually a covert Bluetooth device. As the debate concluded, critics alleged that the gold pearl hoops which Harris wore were actually smart audio earrings developed by the German startup Nova. According to reports, the managing director of iSpark Sound, the company that manufactures Nova products, has stated that he cannot confirm or deny whether the earrings in question are actually from his company. He's also humorously offered to create a male version of the device for Trump, suggesting that the color orange posed a design challenge. But soon after the presidential debate ended, rumors began to spread online, claiming that Harris's earrings were actually a Bluetooth device. Users claimed that the earrings worn by the US Vice President resembled the Nova H1 audio headset. Despite these viral claims, experts and fact-checkers have pointed out that Harris's actual earrings are the double pearl hinged earrings from Tiffany Co, which retail for approximately $800. These earrings bear little resemblance to iSpark's Bluetooth devices, which are priced at around $625. Similar conspiracy theories were spotted on social media during 2020 and 2016. During these election cycles, several people claimed that Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton were using earpieces during their debates against Trump. Following the September 10th debate, Donald Trump is no longer leading in all key swing states. In fact, he's trailing in 4 out of the 7 crucial battleground states, while in Arizona, Georgia, and Nevada, both presidential candidates are tied at 48 points. On the other hand, Harris leads by 1 point in North Carolina, 2 in Michigan, and 3 in Wisconsin. And in the national polls, the vice president has a 3-point edge over her rival, Donald Trump. Now moving on to our next story. Is there a rift brewing within the Trump camp? In our next report, we decode why there's a rift between Marjorie Taylor Greene, a prominent congresswoman, and Laura Loomer, two close allies of former President Donald Trump, have actually disagreed very publicly online. Take a look.
Today we're looking into a political clash that's got everyone talking. Imagine a drama that sparks soap opera and part political circle. That's exactly what's unfolding with Laura Loomer and Marjorie Taylor Greene right now. But who is at the center of the storm? First, let's meet the star of this controversy, Laura Loomer. Known for her far-right views and a knack for stirring the pot, Loomer's made headlines with her bombastic statements and conspiracy theories. From ranting about Muslims to spewing bizarre claims about political figures, Loomer seems to have carved out a niche for herself in the Trump-supporting echo chamber. But her recent antics, they've taken things to a whole new level. Here's where the drama kicks into high gear. Loomer recently stirred up a massive backlash with a series of racist comments aimed at Vice President Kamala Harris. Loomer mocked Harris's Indian heritage by making a wild joke about the White House smelling like curry. Yes, it's as bad as it sounds. And it gets juicier. Loomer even claimed Harris is just pandering to different group for votes. But it does not end there. Enter Marjorie Taylor Greene, the grand old party firebrand who's never shied away from a public feud. She did not hold back here either, calling Loomer's comments appalling and extremely racist. Greene's condemnation was swift and harsh, aiming to distance herself and the MAGA movement from Loomer's brand of toxic rhetoric. The Twitterverse went into overdrive, with both women throwing jabs and accusations left and right. The spat between Loomer and Greene has set social media ablaze. Loomer defended her offensive joke as just a funny quip, but Greene wasn't having any of it, criticizing Loomer's comments as a blight on the Trump legacy. Loomer, in turn, retaliated with personal attacks on Greene, including jabs at her divorce and even accusations of insider trading. Talk about airing dirty laundry. And as if that wasn't enough, this feud is fueling the already fiery 2024 presidential race, with tensions running high between Trump's loyalists and critics within the GOP. With Kamala Harris leading in the polls as of now, Loomer's remarks are just the latest in a series of controversies that seem to follow Trump's circle like a shadow. So there you have it. Will Loomer's comments damage Trump's brand even further? Can Greene's criticism help salvage the GOP's image? Only time will tell. But one thing's for sure, this feud is not going away anytime soon.
Next up, a lifelong Republican supporter has actually now turned to the Democrats. In our next report, our White House correspondent Rohit Sharma talks with Richard Logis, who is the founder of Leaving MAGA.
Rich, you said you went through a year where you went through this process. Did you lose friends, family, when you were transitioning from being a MAGA Republican to what you are right now? I mean, I'll probably say an independent / supporter of Kamala Harris, but did you lose friends, family over, well, first, when you went into the MAGA movement, and then when you came back from it, like, how was that transition?
So I did lose some contact with many in my life whom I had known for many years. They were very influential people in my life, mentors, those I knew from college, those I knew in my professional endeavors. And while it wasn't a case where I, for example, picked up the phone and said, "We can't talk anymore. I can't be friends with you anymore because you're a Democrat voter," that's not really what happened. We lost touch because I had a new second family, and it was my MAGA second family. And it's why I really stress for those who are trying to figure out what goes on in MAGA, what is it about it that's so appealing? It is a community. There is a unity. We all want a communal existence. So I had this new family, and this new family, we would break bread. We would attend each other's holiday parties and birthday parties. And we were a very close, tight-knit community with the ones I knew here. And so as much as I'm embarrassed to admit it, sometimes the MAGA second family actually took precedence over my blood family. And so when I lost contact with those I had known for a long time, it didn't bother me because I had a new group of friends and confidants, people who respected me, they appreciated my work. I felt a lot of vindication and validation, which are all human yearnings and needs that we have. And so as I was going through this process of coming to this really painful conclusion that I had supported Trump and MAGA and that I had defended too much of the indefensible, as I went through this period of time, a lot of it was really, most of it was an individual endeavor for me. It was a lot of late nights at my computer with my thoughts while my conscience was sounding alarm after alarm. Because in addition to DeSantis, in addition to January 6th, there were some other moments in that year time between the summer of 21 and 22 that happened. So related to January 6th, if you recall, back in February of 22, the Republican Party deemed the insurrection legitimate political discourse. And then 3 months later, there was the Uvalde, Texas school shooting. Now, why do I bring all of this up? Because there were two lines of demarcation that I came to. The first was that I had to know, I could not deny any longer that the Republican Party and Donald Trump deemed acceptable avoidable deaths and suffering. I'm not saying most Republicans and conservatives, but the party and Donald Trump, whether we're talking about COVID, or we're talking about the vaccine, or we're talking about January 6th, or we're talking about Uvalde, or any other mass shooting or gun-related violence and trauma that occurred in the United States. They made acceptable unnecessary deaths and suffering. There was another line, which was the defense and justification of right-wing politically motivated violence, a coup that was at least to some extent orchestrated by the most powerful person in the world. So I came to these two lines, and I had to make a determination if I was going to remain in MAGA, which by extension of remaining meant that I said that it was okay that there were avoidable deaths and suffering, that I deemed it acceptable and appropriate for right-wing politically motivated violence, and I could not do it any longer. And I went through this phase where from the summer of 21 to 22, on August 30th, 2022, which I call my leaving MAGAversary, August 30th, and we're right around that time now on the calendar, I wrote and published a mea culpa in which I said on August 30th, 2022, that I was wrong to have supported Trump. I was wrong to have been someone who had considered myself a MAGA American, a true believer, my remorse for all that I had done for the last half decade. And the reason I did it publicly was because I was always very unapologetically public in my support for Trump and MAGA. And when I published it, I did not actually think that anybody would care. And I'm very happy to say I was very wrong about that, because I discovered almost instantaneously after that apology, I was receiving comments from individuals. And it wasn't just, "Hey, Rich, great job." I was receiving comments, "Oh, my mother, my brother, my son, my best friend, is there anything I can tell them to try to get them out of this MAGA rabbit hole?" And I have received comments like that for years right now. And I had to determine what I was going to do after I left in that summer of 2022. I took the next year. I was liberated. I was emancipated from the manacles of MAGA, but I had to rediscover myself. I had to find again my political footing. And yes, it is true that as I walked away from my MAGA community, I did not retain relationships there. But conversely, I reached out to those whom I had lost touch with.
Now,
And I asked them to accept my apology for saying about them just some really abhorrent statements. And all of them did accept my apology. And in fact, one who was very important to me in college, he said, "Rich, I always knew you'd come back." That's what he
Rich,
told me.
you know, it's a very interesting story, and I'm just captivated by some of the things that you've said. A lot of questions in my head, and I mean, so the first question is, are you intimidated if Trump wins? I mean, do you think he will come after those who, left his movement? I mean, we've heard about, Project 2025 and, retribution and injustice and whatnot. Do you think you would fear that he would probably, come after people that deserted him in this big election year?
I do fear that. And I don't think that fear is unwarranted. Donald Trump's reputation precedes him. He and his own surrogates have very clearly stated that a Trump presidency, in addition to completely transforming the way that our federal government operates and its relationship with all of our states, I think that the revenge would be exacted from those, not just from Trump, but I think many of his own officials he would try to appoint in his cabinet. In fact, I think that they would really be his capos, to use an organized crime term, where he would essentially assign them and delegate roles to them in which there would be pursuits of revenge against political opponents, anyone he believes had wronged him or slighted him in the past. And so I do think that many of the potential worst case scenario outcomes of a second Trump presidency are not hyperbolic. And one of those potential worst case scenario outcomes is retribution. And retribution under the weight of the federal government is going to be very, very difficult for someone to challenge and to push back against that. And there are other worst case scenario outcomes that I also believe are not potentially exaggeratory, including one which we saw from January 6th, which would be potentially an attempt to remain in power permanently. I know that in the year 2024, that sounds like something out of a Hollywood film. But again, we have the last many years of evidence that I don't think that saying that is something that is imaginary, and that I think it's actually quite possible and realistic we would have.
And now for some stories that you might have missed from American politics. A presidential debate is one of the most watched events of an election cycle, and this time's Trump-Harris debate did not disappoint. A massive 67 million people tuned in to watch the first presidential debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. Now, this number far surpassed the earlier Trump-Biden debate that took place in June, which was watched by just over 51 million people, and which forced President Biden out of the presidential race. However, while these numbers were impressive, they weren't close to the record that was set in 2016 when Donald Trump faced off against Hillary Clinton. 84 million people saw the first Trump-Hillary Clinton debate, which took place that year. Ranking close behind after that was the first debate between Biden and Trump in 2020, which was seen by 73.1 million people. Moving on, in the aftermath of the presidential debate, one particular claim from the Trump campaign has gone viral and has also sparked much humor on social media. During the debate, Trump claimed that Haitian immigrants in cities like Springfield, Ohio, have been eating pets like dogs and cats. This came as part of the former president's efforts to cast increased immigration as causing more violent crime. However, this wild and unverified claim began trending on social media under the topic, "They're eating the dogs." Social media users and even politicians have posted hilarious memes with their pets poking fun at Trump's wild claims. However, the Trump campaign has shown that it will double down on this narrative. Senator J.D. Vance, Trump's running mate, backed Trump's statement and has actually said that there have been reports of Haitian immigrants causing chaos in places like Springfield. However, key local officials in that city have made clear that there have not been any credible reports of pets being eaten. And finally, something unexpected happened after the presidential debate that you don't see too often. Germany waded into political controversy after it directly rebutted a claim that Trump made during the debate with Harris. Trump had argued that Germany's plans to transition away from fossil fuels had failed badly. Trump said this to counter Harris's assertions on green energy and renewables. Germany, however, took exception to Trump's comment. It put out a tweet rebutting Trump's statement and added that Germany had achieved success in using renewable energy. And then, just as a dig at Trump, it also added, "We also don't eat cats and dogs." That's all we have for you on this episode of Race for the White House. We'll see you again on Monday. Thank you so much for watching India Today Global.